Again, thank you everyone for joining us for our preview webinar. We would prefer to be at the Los Colinas Country Club and meeting in person, but yet we've shifted online and being agile, strategic leaders that we are. This is we'll definitely do, and we'll make the most of it. We appreciate you all attending today. If you haven't done so already, if you go up to the top right-hand corner of your screen and put it on gallery view, you'll get a chance to see all the faces of everyone that's joined today. And if at this time, before I introduce the EMBA team, can I have all of our alumni raise your hand and wave to the audience? All right, great. And also any current students online as of yet? Let's see. If you could raise your hand, current students. Good, all right. And if you haven't raised your hand, also some of our marketing partners, if you could raise your hand, wave. Good, thank you. And also other members of the faculty and staff, if you can raise your hand and wave, please. All right. Well, great. Let me go ahead and introduce members of the EMBA team. Let me go ahead and I'll spotlight their video so you know who they are. Or Cecily, if you could spotlight each person real quick as I go through. We're going to start with Suzanne.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
It's good to see everyone we're looking forward to today.
Yeah, so Dr. Suzanne Carr is our executive director and also professor of strategy practice. Dr. Carr teaches strategy at the beginning and the ending of our program. So we bookend the beginning and end of the program with strategy. And then also Dr. Carter leads our study abroad course that we normally have during the middle of the program. Given the COVID-19 pandemic, we've, for the class 2021, we have shifted that global study abroad experience to be at the end of the program for those students. And you'll hear from Dr. Carter, and she'll be the moderator for our alumni panel discussion later today.
Good to see everyone.
Good. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Linda Lacoste.
Good morning.
All right. Linda's my partner in crime, the crime of education for Agile Strategic Leaders. Linda leads student services and operations for the EMBA program and also is the faculty of record for our leadership development process.
This is so fun. I'm flipping through all the pictures. It feels like I'm seeing all my old friends again. So welcome, everybody.
Good. Next, I'd like to introduce Alexandra Cifuentes.
Hello. I don't know if you guys can see my video. I can't see it, but hello nonetheless.
Well, I'll go ahead and introduce Alex as we switch to our video. Alex works with Linda in supporting our students during the experience in the program. She supports the student services and operations, whether it be getting books and materials, day of class days, making sure the students have what they need, and there's Alex. And working with the students very closely to make sure that all they need to do is prepare and come and learn and enjoy the experience. Thanks, Alex. And last but not least, our DJ for the day, Cecily Harris, also who works with me on recruiting, marketing, and external relations for the program. Wait, Cecily. Okay, great. All right. So now I'd like to introduce our featured faculty speaker. Before that, let me give a brief run of the agenda. We'll go into our featured faculty speaker, Dr. Rita Kosnik. After she does her presentation and takes some questions, we'll then move to our alumni panel. And then, excuse me one second. And then thereafter, we will go to our small group sessions where we'll break you out into smaller groups that's been assigned. And then we'll go ahead and conclude for this afternoon. All right. So I had the pleasure of introducing our featured faculty speaker for today, Dr. Rita Kosnik. Rita is one of 3 faculty members who have taught all of our EMBA students in the program since we started the program in the year 2000. Rita is an expert and known around the globe for her expertise in negotiations. So without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Rita Kosnik to talk about negotiating success. Rita.
Thank you, Kevin. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, even though it's a different medium. And as Kevin said earlier, the main theme of our Neeley MBA program is to help create agile leaders, and that agility is being put to the test. So rather than talk about it, we have to practice it on a daily basis. That means for me, I'm trying to navigate all the technology, even though I was so excited about the fax machine, and now I have to handle Zoom. So I'm doing my very best to keep up, all right? I have heard that from some of my students that there is a glitch with the Zoom software because you hear an accent. It's a total distortion of the sound. I do not have an accent, okay? So please give me some credit on that behalf. It's totally not my fault. It's totally Zoom. I'm going to take over as a host and then share my screen. So Kevin, if you can make me the host, then I can steer the ship for the next half hour. Can you do that for me, please?
Sure, we will.
Am I good? Okay, you trust me?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. See, it takes a little bit of
You,
time,
we haven't
right?
shipped
You
it
know,
just yet. It's,
after teaching for 20 years, they still don't fully trust me. But there may be a good reason for that. The nice thing about all the technology and the Zoom opportunities we have is, I'm trying to get students to be creative while I wait to be the host here. And last weekend we had a class, and several people were very creative in their background. And the prize for creativity went to one student who had created a background of a warehouse filled with toilet paper. So he won the prize for most creative background in our last class weekend. So it clearly raised the bar, so I'm waiting to see what happens in our next class. Okay. Kevin, am I good? Can I share my screen?
Go
I'll
ahead.
start talking without the screen.
Cecily?
Okay.
Are you-
Well,
Yes.
as I was introduced kindly enough by Kevin, I teach a negotiation class. And what we do in that class may be a little out of sync with the mainstream teaching mode of some other classes. In the perspective of teaching negotiations, my main goal is to teach and offer skills, tools that allow you to become more effective when you deal with people in a wide variety of circumstances. And as a result of that premise, what I always try to do is, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Is to offer hands-on experience in negotiations. And that is in line with our main goal in the EMBA program. And they often talk about return on investment, the ROI. In my course on negotiations, that is pushed to the very limit. And you are able to take home immediately and start practicing immediately the skills and insights that are created in this class. And what I'd like to do in the next few minutes is give you a preview of some of the content that we offer in this class. And then I will also share how this class is organized and how it functions, because you can read 100 books on negotiations and keep up with every new publication in the field. And deep down, that will not make you a better negotiator. So the goal is to plant seeds, give you hands-on experience, and then we perfect that. And everybody has a different journey. It's a very individualized learning process that complements very tightly the coaching that our students receive through our leadership program. So we take to the coaching sessions a lot of the insights and experiences gained in the class. Now, before we get to that point of format of the course, I want to share with you what the premise is of negotiations, because when people hear negotiations or conflict management, very often they have a different image or perception of what negotiations really is. And when I ask people, what do you have in mind? What do you expect from a course on negotiations? Very often, what I hear is bargaining, negotiating over contracts, a fight, stress, having to give up something, a lot of antagonism, disputes. And here's the big one, lawyers. And all the input I get on that question seems very stressful, negative, as somebody said, very antagonistic. And what I hope to do in the course is somewhat reverse that image, because this is not what we train. Yes, this may be funny, right? And yes, it is a fact that having some good backup skills in martial arts might help you. Or being a good marksman may be a good backup option, just as a deterrent. But we don't have to go there. So while the price negotiations often are centered in our everyday conception of what we're going to do in negotiations, we're going to take it way beyond that. And my main belief is that every time you deal with people, whether it is professionally, in business, or personally, every time you're interacting with a person because you want to accomplish a goal, you got to get something done, and aren't we all dependent on each other in one way or another? Yeah. Every time we deal with people, we are really negotiating. And you may say, you're biased. Yes, I'm biased because I see negotiations everywhere. It's actually very hard for me to enjoy a movie and not look at scenes that I can use in class. But it is all around us. And the key to dealing with people is to identify where our needs or preferences are aligned and where they are not. And trying to come to a collaborative way of working together so that everybody gets something accomplished. Do I describe your life, whether it's at home or at work, or even driving on the road and you need to get that exit and you need to negotiate the right of way with that car who is to the right side of you? You need to decide, shall I cut them off or back off and then take the exit later? Just driving on the road, you cannot get to your destination without negotiating. It's a process of combining different needs and communicating, whether it is visually, tacitly, or whether it's verbally, and trying to identify how do we get out of this situation with the same results. I try not to look at the image I'm showing you as a negotiation, but I'm showing you what my vision is of a good negotiator. This is what negotiations is all about. And some of you may be thinking, what's wrong with her, right? What is that all about? Take a good look. Actually, I borrowed that from a therapist. What do you see? We can look at this image and we see all kinds of things. And we can actually create quite a conflict by arguing over what's in that image and what is not. What do you see and what do I see? Here are common answers to this image. What do you see? I see an old man, okay? You see an old man? On purpose, I don't use the old lady image because people look at me and say, yeah, I see her, right? So I use an old man on purpose, just to play it safe. Do you see an ear? Can you find an ear?
Yes.
Do you see a nose?
Yes.
Yes. Do you see an old lady? Okay, on the image, all right?
Possibly the nose.
Yeah, uh-huh. See, I can already pick a fight with you because how do you know that the nose is a lady? Can we get onto a slippery slope in conversation? You're using stereotypes. People will say, well, look at the hat. She wears a girly hat. All right, slippery slope. Can we have a conversation that is pretty intense on that? Absolutely. Do you see eyes? Do you see huts? Now it's getting trickier. Do you see turtles? Some of you are taking a close-up look here. Where are the turtles in this picture? I've met many people who see turtles, and I tell them, you're crazy. There are no turtles in that picture. You don't get it. Does that sound familiar? Have you ever told people, what's wrong with you? You don't get it. Or if you're diplomatic, you're thinking it. What's wrong with them? They don't get it. They don't see it. You see how the source of our conflict is the fact that we see things differently. We emphasize different images. We have different backgrounds. And the first person who ever told me, I see two turtles, my reaction was indeed a little upsetting. Like, no, there are no turtles. I've looked at this picture many times. And she said, no, they're turtles. I like turtles. In fact, I collect turtles. And yes, in her purse were all kinds of a turtle watch, and she had all kinds of turtle items. So she looked for turtles. Psychologists call it confirmation bias. What does that mean for us as I have to deal with somebody who likes turtles? I accept the fact she likes turtles and I'm going to give her turtles. I'm not making a concession. I say, okay, from now on, when I deal with Denise, we're going to talk turtles because that will get her attention. And she's going to be very happy when I bring turtles to the table. I'm not making a concession. I'm not giving in. I'm framing my interaction with Denise differently. So I use this image every time to highlight the fact that dealing with people requires, yes, a certain level of agility. And the agility doesn't come from giving in and compromising. It comes from your ability to see things from their point of view. I'm not asking you to agree with their point of view, but do you see it? Do you see where they're coming from? Can you see the turtles? That's the mental agility that is essential for dealing with people. And it's at the essence of negotiations. So look for the turtles, understand where they are at, and if they see frogs, some people have seen frogs or other images. Learn to approach the issues from everybody's point of view. It's a matter of perspective taking. And it's also a matter of, on a daily basis, being aware of your interactions and the fact that you're negotiating. I offer in the class not just theory, but specific tools and tactics that you can take home and put in your tool bag as an EMBA student. And the tools are there to be used throughout your interactions. But in order for that to work and create that ROI, you need to be aware that you're negotiating. So we work a lot on actual simulations and negotiation experiences in class. And rather than talk about a case, we actually do the case. We negotiate and we write about it, we think about it, we exchange perspectives. And that's the beauty of the class I'm allowed to offer. I plant seeds. And yes, there is a side effect to that, because I do hope that in at least one of our simulations in class, you fail miserably. So what does that mean? Do I just have a negative attitude? Maybe, but we're not going to talk about that today. My goal for creating experiences where it's not always straightforward and you fail sometimes is to create an experience that you will never repeat outside the classroom, where real money is at stake, where a real contract is pending. So if things go too smoothly in our class sessions, then it goes to your head and you think, oh, I'm a natural. And you don't have the learning experience. So we try to create different experiences that then you recognize in real life and you can take to your desk and to your family and practice it. So it's all about settling differences based on a good communication process. And yes, that's both an art and a science. I like that description of art and science in negotiation. There is a lot of economic and psychological background that we use, but it's really that dance of, as Churchill said, silk and steel. And that's what we're practicing. So it's both an art and a science. Now, as many of you are considering joining the EMBA program, you have some conversations of silk and steel waiting for you. There are a lot of negotiations you will have to engage in with your employer, maybe with your employees if you have your own business, with your family. And those things are going to come to the forefront, and you will have to manage those to the best of your ability. And what I would like you to avoid is to step into some of the disasters that I often see in negotiations. And I'm going to give you some things to avoid. How's that? What do you want to avoid? When you try to negotiate with your employer, with your family, with your significant others, I would like to enroll, but I'm going to need some help in many different ways. Things to avoid: feeling entitled. When you feel like, oh, I have a right out of principle. I've supported this family so long, it's my time. Or you go to your employer and say, look at everything I've accomplished for you. People don't like to be pushed. Anytime you apply pressure to somebody, they're going to pressure you back. And that goes against our main principles of a good long-term deal. So don't go in and say, out of principle, you owe me this EMBA program. Do not overestimate how valuable you are. These are all cognitive biases that we bring to the table. Oh, of course they're going to support me. Look, what would they do without me? Please don't test that assumption. Assuming the best or the worst, my employer is never going to support me. My spouse will never allow me to do this. Negative thinking. One of the worst mistakes we all make in negotiations is assuming, assumptions. We call it the dirty A word, and we elaborate on that tremendously in our class. Don't go in complaining, feel like a victim. Because, you know, when people feel guilty about you being a victim, they may give you a little handout, but they never give you the full support. They just want you to go away so you stop whining. It doesn't help with your ultimate goals. And definitely, please don't give them ultimatums, because again, they may call your bluff. So I'm going to share with you just a little insight on how we structure our negotiation process. I use very simple rules because those are easiest to apply when you're in the midst of a conversation. And sometimes you're facing a stressful situation. So our 2 golden rules for a good deal are: 1, you create value, you get something, and everybody else takes some value away. I'm a big believer in everybody walking away with a certain sense of accomplishment. Not necessarily your ideal outcome, but you got something accomplished that you couldn't have accomplished without this other person, the other party. So we create value for all, and we want to maintain the relationship. I'm not a believer at all in hit and run deals. It's a small world out there. We're definitely aware of it. So the most important investment you can make is your reputation. And you want to keep the door open because you may have to face this party again under certain circumstances, maybe in different situations. So very simple rules. We then practice these basic premises for a good deal. And we use 5 golden rules that we elaborate on and we implement in great detail. That's the framework we're using in our negotiation. In this little preview session we have today, I want to talk and give you a feel for the number 1 golden rule there, which is focus on interest, which is really the holy grail of any good interaction. And the difference between a position and an interest, focusing on interest, is a position is a declaration of what a person wants. It's a demand, it's an offer. And as a good negotiator, you will go beyond that position and find out what they really need, because that's where your biggest leverage is. And I'm going to give you a personal example on how to focus on interest when you're dealing with people and not bargain over positions. My personal example goes a few years back. It was actually in 2017. And my family and I were trying to decide where to go on vacation. And we had a family meeting. And we sat down, and my youngest son was involved, my husband, and myself. And I'm showing you here what each person's favorite vacation was, our positions. When we asked my son, where do you want to go on vacation? He said, I want to go to Hawaii. Okay. When I asked my husband, where do you want to go on vacation? He said, oh, I want to drive to Big Bend and sit in a cabin for a week. You could see the silence, right, in the house. And I told him, no, that's not going to happen. I want to go on a cruise. So here we were, and there were only 3 of us at that time. 3 totally different ideal outcomes of our vacation. Well, what could we do? We could let somebody win. They didn't let me win, even though they know that it's best for their long-term success and happiness if mother is happy, but they didn't take that advice. If we would have argued over who's going to win, the other 2 would have been disgruntled, would have been unhappy. So what did we do instead? We went around the table and asked, so why do you want to go to Hawaii? Did we make an assumption that if my son wants to go to Hawaii, it's because he likes the beach? Maybe he would like to look at pretty girls? Maybe he wants to go snorkeling? Yes? Well, as we talked about it, it turned out none of the above. He wanted to go to Hawaii because they have a major observatory and he loves astronomy. So he wanted to go to look at the stars, not the girls. My husband wanted to go to Big Bend because he's cheap. He wanted to save money. That's a very cheap vacation. We drive there, a cabin is $100 a night, and there is no cell phone reception, no internet. I wanted to go on a cruise because they told me on a cruise you don't have to do anything. And all I do is, if we're going on vacation, I'm the travel agent, I plan the meals, I do everything. So my goal was to do nothing. That's why I like to cruise. So where did we go on vacation now that we knew the interest? Let me tell you, are you sitting down? We went to Kansas City. We went to Kansas City because it met all our needs. This was 2017. And in 2017, we had the major solar eclipse going over the US. And my son really wanted to take pictures of the solar eclipse with his telescope. Okay, he liked that idea. Did I like the idea? Only if I didn't have to do anything. My husband was happy because we used Southwest Miles, Kansas City, not that expensive. So we were all perfectly happy in Kansas City. My apologies to those of you from Kansas. Linda, I'm sorry. But it was a great vacation. Do you see my idea of talking at an interest level? You got to bring it down to what is it that appeals to you in the TCU Neeley EMBA program when you're talking to your family and your employer. So let me give you a few pieces of advice based on what we cover in class. And again, once you get in class, we will elaborate on this. Make sure you understand why people are asking you questions. Why might they resist your request for money, support? Learn to understand where they're coming from. What are the turtles they're looking for? Try to explain the way you're going to organize it. Education. Half of a battle in a negotiation is exchanging information, not pushing your way through a solution. Highlight what they have to gain from you joining the EMBA program, especially in the long term. So think long term and try to find ways that you can meet their interests, sometimes by expanding the pie. Yes, I will sit with the kids and we will all do homework together. So you don't have to supervise their homework because mom or dad now will have to do homework too. So those are just a few tips that come out of our approach to negotiations, the way we cover it in class. Now I'll open it up to any questions or comments you have.
Thank you, Rita. At this time, if you have a question, you can post it in the chat, or if you could raise your hand, either one. So Rita, as we wait, oh, okay. So question from Monica De La Garza is, will you please show the 5 golden rules again?
Oh, okay. So you want a rerun. All right. I can do a rerun. All right. Okay. Here is the rerun. There you are. Okay. See, that was really a test to see how fast you remember my slides, right? But these 5 golden rules are adapted from the little Bible on negotiations. It's a little book that goes way back. It was written by Fisher and Urey, and it's called Getting to Yes. And Getting to Yes, a book written by 2 lawyers, really created the field, the discipline of negotiations. And I still go back to that, but I've interpreted that in terms of practical golden rules that we then implement with specific tactics.
Okay. 2 people, Alexandra Safavier and Matt Donaldson, asked, can you talk more or expand more on the expand the pie?
Expanding the pie, yes, definitely. Expanding the pie is a major source of leverage, but it requires a certain amount of creativity. Expanding the pie means that very often we are also focused on the money, on the monetary or quantitative components of the outcome. And every time we bring in money or numbers or metrics, we are going to position and we're going to defend our right answer. How do we allow people to be flexible? Leverage comes from being flexible and identifying other ways in which we can meet people's interests and needs. So expanding the pie would be, for instance, if I enroll in the EMBA program, I'm going to need some time to study. Now, what else can I bring to the table at home? Well, maybe while I study, I will watch the baby while she's asleep and everybody else can go out in limited numbers these days, but I can take care of that. There are certain things I can do for you. In contracts, the expansion comes from bringing in intangibles. For instance, I'll give you my personal phone number, call me anytime. I'm gonna assign you a personal customer service agent. He's available to you 24 hours a day. Nobody else will watch your case. You have a personal agent. Very often, I will give you, if you go and buy a car, try to expand the pie and get 2 years of free oil changes or a free loaner car. Those are ways to expand the pie that go beyond the monetary or quantitative component.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Thank you. 2 more quick questions, Rita. The first one from Kelly Black, prospective student. In class, when working on a particular negotiating failure, how do you drill down into what the student needs to work on?
Okay, all right. Well, it is both my feedback and the feedback from other students that will help us proceed through that journey. I call it a journey to sit in class. When we run a negotiation, we always come back in class and we all exchange experiences. This is what we accomplished. This is how it worked. But we will also give each other ideas of, look what they did. That was creative. I didn't think about that. We also write a journal, and that sounds like a heavy, loaded word, but we reflect on every experience in class. After the discussion, what did I learn? What did I take away? What do I need to watch next time? And the third component for that guidance is peer review. We give each other feedback in a very professional way, but when you're on the other side of the table, we see things that you left on the table or you didn't ask me this question. So we help each other. It's a joint process of learning.
Great. Last question. Question from Ransom Alexander, another prospective student. Why isn't be prepared the first step?
I know being prepared in a time-wise fashion is indeed step number 1. But when we cover the material, I need to share with students what they need to prepare on and for. So we need to understand the other 4 rules before we can focus on how to prepare. Time-wise, yes, you prepare before the negotiation. But in the class experience, in the educational experience, we need to understand and cover the 4 other rules, and now we're going to implement it in preparation. And I share with students several worksheets and guidelines for how to prepare. And I drill on that. Every time, nobody can come to class or participate without an extensive preparation. It's a worksheet that we go through, and it creates very good habits. Right, alum?
Well, good. Well, Rita, thank you again for the presentation and answering these questions. At this time, we'll move on to the alumni panel. Rita will be available for alumni who can hang out afterwards and get a chance to say hello. And then also, if you want to reach out to Rita, you can connect with her either through me or through her LinkedIn. Great.